Yeah, tell Manny Pacquiao come back over here. Manny, come on over here, Manny. He's a legend of the sport, and it'd be my honor to fight him next.
Alright, RocSports here. I'm back with another video. This video, as you can tell by the title, this is a breakdown and prediction on the upcoming fight of Spence and Pacquiao. Thank you for this fight. Thank you for this fight. To the fighters first, because they have to agree. To the promoters, everybody that's involved with this fight, thank you. This is the fights that we need in boxing. This is what we crave. If somebody would have said that Pacquiao would be fighting Spence or Terrence Crawford, I would have told them that they was crazy. I thought there was no way that he would have fought either one of them. And it don't have nothing to do with about nobody's being scared or nobody, you know what I mean? But it's just because Pacquiao, man, he's a legend. He's an icon, bro. Like, he didn't have to fight none of these new breeds. He didn't have to fight Keith Thurman. But for him to take this fight, that says a lot about him, man. That says a lot about him. And all credit to Pacquiao. Because regardless what happens in this fight, he gets my respect. I mean, he had it before this fight, but it's another level of respect that he gets for taking this fight. The fact that he was even negotiating with Terrence Crawford, so it was going to be one of them two. Or I heard Mikey Garcia, but we talking those two? That's crazy, man. That's crazy. His legend and his heart is on a whole nother level. Like I said, Pacquiao don't have nothing else to prove. He's already an all-time great, you know, etc. We don't have to go off Pacquiao accolades. Everybody already know. But this fight, I still can't believe is happening just because everything is just in Errol's favor in a sense. You know what I mean? It's a win-win for Pacquiao. Pacquiao can go get knocked out in the first round. They're just going to say he was too old. Or he can go to decision and lose a shutout. They still going to, you know, say the same thing. But if he give Errol Spence any type of trouble, he's going to get all the credit in the world. It's a win-win for Pacquiao, and it's a lose-lose for Errol, but that's what comes with these type of fights. I respect Errol for taking this fight too. But let's get into this breakdown because I'm excited. The fight's a couple weeks away, and I'm excited. Okay, so before we get into the Errol and Pacquiao fight, let's do a quick recap on Pac Thurman and Spence Garcia. So starting with Pac Thurman, that was a great fight. I think it's a very underrated fight. Pacquiao definitely won the fight clear. But people with this whole narrative that he dominated Thurman, I disagree. Like I said, that definitely was a clear win for Pacquiao, but I think we get so caught up into, because of his age and, you know, this is a totally new generation. But if we just talking just the fight itself, Pacquiao dominated the earlier rounds, I would say. That's about it, though. But in terms of the full fight, I don't think he dominated Keith Thurman. Again, people forget that was a split decision win. That wasn't a straight, you know, unanimous decision. Yeah, he knocked him down in the first round. That was a flash knockdown. But I think what he did in the 10th round of Thurman was much more significant when he made him spit his mouthpiece out and all of that. But I brought this fight up, though. I wanted to do a quick recap because people keep forgetting about the end of that fight. Keith Thurman came along. I'm not sure if it was the last 3 rounds, but for sure the last 2 rounds. Pacquiao started slowing down and Keith started picking it up. I said that to say Errol is a fighter whose conditioning is top-notch. When people praise Pacquiao for his conditioning, and rightfully so, Errol's conditioning, if not better, is just as good. He's, like I say, obviously he's younger, but man, Pacquiao really worried me with you know how he slowed down at the end of that fight, man. And if we had a couple more rounds, say if that fight just went on for another round or 2, who knows what would have happened. And then we got the flip side to that. A recap of Errol and Danny. Errol dominated Danny. Coming off the horrific car accident, everybody wasn't sure how he was going to be, and rightfully so. But he dominated Danny. We don't even have to do a scorecard recap. Everybody know he schooled Danny Garcia. At him not even being close to 100%. What did he say he was? He said, I think he said, Errol himself said that he was 70%. So, and against a very game fighter in Danny Garcia. So I think at that point, I think Danny Garcia was better than Keith Thurman. I mean, they hadn't fought, but they did fight, but I'm saying considering all of the injuries and the layoff that Keith Thurman had too, I think that at that point he was a little bit more fresher, still more hungry than what Keith Thurman was. But that's besides the fact. Errol dominated Danny Garcia, schooled him, and everybody's still saying, well, going into that fight, everybody was talking about the punch resistance of Errol and all of that, if it was still the same. I felt like he answered all those questions. Danny clipped him a couple times. He was good. But in terms of this fight, it's a total different fight. It's for both of them. Because again, they both present different things that, neither has faced in a long time, if ever. The people that still question the Errol after the car accident, just stop. Just stop. If Pacquiao was to beat Errol Spence this fight, it's not because of the car accident. He was just better than Errol Spence. You know what I mean? I feel like he's recovering and he's moved past the car accident now. So I wish that we can put that to rest now. He's good. He seemed like he's back to 100%. He looks sharp in camp as well as Manny. So Errol deserves all the credit if he was to go in here and dominate Pacquiao. As should Pacquiao just get his credit too if he go in there and dominate Errol. But let's finally get into this fight. So, tail of the tape, what you're looking at on your screen, Pacquiao's 42, which I think the two biggest things that we're looking at right now is the reach and the age. And you can say the record too because of the experience for Pacquiao. So, the 11-year age difference is going to be huge. It's going to be huge, man. As well as that reach. Pacquiao hasn't fought nobody like Errol Spence. People try to say, oh yeah, he fought. He's seen every style. He hadn't seen a style like Errol Spence. He haven't. And what I mean by that is, one, just the southpaw aspect. And then considering Errol is big, he's in his prime. He's big, he's undefeated. That's a total different ball game, man. I think every physical advantage is in Errol's favor with the exception of obviously Pacquiao's speed and his quickness. But aside from his speed, quickness, and his experience, every other attribute, intangible, everything I think is in Errol Spence's favor. Pacquiao's a legend. He's an icon with all the experience in the world. He's a true vet and he knows his way around that ring. So I'm going to still, though, again, as a fan, just talking, this is just my opinion, I'm going to still get some keys to victory for both fighters. So let's start off with Pacquiao first. So, again, stay off the ropes. That's pretty self-explanatory. Errol Spence is one of the best fighters in the game today in walking his opponent down, cutting the ring off, and working the body when he gets his opponent. Really just throwing, just being active, period, when his opponent is against the ropes. I think that's when he's at his best. So Pacquiao cannot afford to be on the ropes, man. I think it'd be in an early night if Pacquiao try to win this fight off the ropes. It won't be a fight. So let's just go right to number 2. If Pacquiao dictates the pace, anybody that gave Errol Spence problems in the past, from Kell Brook to Sean Porter to that's almost it, huh? But just using those two as an example, they had success when they were dictating the pace, when they were fighting their fight, not letting Errol, fight his fight, so to say, control them. So I'm saying for Pacquiao, I think Pacquiao needs to dictate the pace. He needs to speed up the tempo. That's usually how he fights, in and out. But I think Pacquiao can't let Errol be in control. He's gonna fight the same way he normally fights. But when he gets in and he get out, while he's in, he has to throw combinations and use his speed, whether it's foot speed and hand speed, because he has quicker feet and hands than Errol. So he has to use that to his advantage. That's one of his few advantages in this fight, and he's going to need that. Okay, so this brings me to my next slide. Errol Spence keys to victory. As you can see, I got use the jab, control distance, go to the body, use constant pressure, and change levels on Pacquiao. So, because that this is a southpaw versus southpaw matchup, I think as is every fight, Errol jab is, man, is money. And it's a lot of times his calling card. But I think in this fight, I think it's going to really, really, really dictate a lot of the fight and control Pacquiao. This is what I mean by Pacquiao having fought nobody like Errol Spence. Because he's a southpaw and he's much bigger than Pacquiao, his arms are much longer. You know, just everything. Pacquiao is going to really have a hard time getting past the jab, I believe. A lot of the quick, twitchy, in and out movement that we see, although he still has to do that because that's just who he is as a fighter. I think a lot of that is going to be, you know, negated because of Errol's jab and him being southpaw. The same angles that we usually see Pacquiao take, it won't be there for this fight because he's a southpaw. You get away with that with a lot of the orthodox fighters because he's a southpaw, but with him fighting Errol, it's going to be a totally different fight. So that's why it's a very, very, very intriguing fight, man. But brings me to number 2, go to the body. Use constant pressure. A lot of people don't talk about Pacquiao don't like body shots. His body language when getting hit to the body is not good. So I think that this is going to be huge for this fight, man. As well as everything else I've been saying, like the jab and the distancing. But I think the body punching and the relentless pressure of Errol Spence is going to be huge, man. And again, this goes back to what I mean by he hasn't fought nobody like Errol Spence. He's going to throw a lot of punches. He's going to match Pacquiao's punch volume. He will. It's just going to look different, though. You know what I mean? Like Pacquiao's going to do the he's going to come in and throw them flashy 4 to 5 punch combinations and have the crowd, you know, going crazy. Whereas Errol's going to be pop, 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 pop. You know, just constantly just coming. Pumping with the jab. Nailing body shots to Pacquiao. You know what I mean? So it's just going to look different. But then we're going to look at the copy box stats. And then we're going to see the punch volume is going to be very similar. I believe so. What I mean by the last point, changing levels. I think Errol has to use his jab up top and to the body. He has to just do everything. Just go to Pacquiao up top and to his body. That's what I mean by that. But also, he has to get out too as well. He can't just stand in front of Pacquiao how he has, you know, with majority of other fighters. Now, Errol has shown so many different elements to his game. And I think that he can beat Pacquiao multiple ways, honestly. But I don't think that he needs to stand in front of Pacquiao. He needs to be smart and calculated with his aggression, if that makes sense, with his pressure. I don't think he could just stand in front of Pacquiao because he's going to come back with something. Errol will get touched by Pacquiao, but I think he will take his power good, but he cannot take certain shots from just, you know, being in front too long. But I'm rambling. Let's get to my last point, which is the X factors. Number 1, this age. The age is going to mean something. Just don't know what yet. In my opinion, I believe that it's going to favor Errol Spence, but the experience could be huge, and that can go into Pacquiao's favor. Which, factoring in the age, Pacquiao hasn't had a fight since 2019, man. He has had a long layoff since the Keith Thurman fight. And I don't think that this is going to suit him well. You can say, yeah, oh, he's older, he's fresher, but no. What about the rust aspect? I think that the layoff is going to really, really hurt Pacquiao. And maybe like that can contribute to him having a slow start, as well as finishing the fight. Because he hasn't been so active, that can affect him, you know, in the second half of the fight. Which Errol is one of those fighters that gets stronger as the fight go along. And number 3, punching power. You've been hearing a lot of people talking about Pacquiao's punching power and how he's the harder puncher. And you heard some of Errol's past opponents like Danny Garcia say, oh, he doesn't hit that hard. He's just more so strong than powerful in terms of his punches. And you heard Pacquiao, recent opponent in Keith Thurman, as well as so many others, talk about how his hands feel like little bricks or little rocks or something. So you know what I mean? So obviously we will favor Pacquiao slightly, but that does not mean that Errol does not have power. His is just different. Pacquiao has more one-punch power, so the previous opponents say. And then we already touched on the southpaw aspect a little bit, but a lot of people again are favoring Pacquiao in terms of adjustments because of his experience, but I disagree. I think that Errol is the better adjuster, honestly. And with the southpaw aspect, again, Pacquiao hasn't fought a southpaw. I don't know if it's been 13 years or if it's been 10 years. And I think for Errol Spence, it's been 6 years. So neither has fought southpaws recently. Which brings me to my last X factor. And that's the name you see last on this list, and that's Blu-ray. For anybody that don't know who Blu-ray is Errol Spence's strength and conditioning coach. But he hasn't been with him in a good little minute. Like, I'm not sure when the last fight they was together with. I'm not mistaken. I think it was whoever he fought right after Kell Brook. I think Lamont Peterson. I think that was his last time that he was with Blu-ray. And Blu-ray's great, man. Blu-ray is great. And him and Errol they on a 11 KO streak, 11 fight KO streak together, and they linked back up for this fight. He wasn't with him for Mikey, for Sean, for Ocampo, all of those fighters in between there. I don't think that Errol was with him. So Blu-ray, the addition of Blu-ray is huge, and that's gonna go unnoticed to mainstream media. But that's why we have channels like mine, and as well as so many others. But man, Blu-ray is going to be huge in this fight, and his impact is going to have a big impact on Errol's punching power as well as his physical strength. Errol Spence is my favorite fighter, but again, you would never hear me come on here and be biased in any sport. You would never hear me be biased. But my honest prediction, I truly, truly believe that Errol will win this fight, and I think that this will be one of his best performances. I think that it's going to be very tough early on, but I think once he gets Pacquiao timing down and, figure him out, once he pretty much imposes his will on Pacquiao, I think he's going to break Pacquiao down. And it's a very high-strung, matter of fact, I'm going to say it, I think he's going to stop Pacquiao. If he don't, I think it'll be a clear decision win, but I think he's going to stop Pacquiao to the body. And that's it, man. That's what it is. That's how it happened. I will say this, though. This is a little bit off topic, but I think everybody should go listen to Chris Algieri, Tim Bradley, even though sometimes he can be a little, but Tim Bradley, Chris Algieri, Andre Ward, and Nonito Donaire, especially Nonito Donaire, and Keith Thurman. They gave very, very, very good breakdowns of this fight. Very good breakdowns. But that's my breakdown. I got Errol Spence winning this fight. I cannot wait. August 21st. Can't get here soon enough. That's 5 days before my birthday. And man, I'm excited, man. I'm excited. The fans are the winners at the end of the day. And I'm happy, man. I'm excited. There's nothing else to be said. I'm checking out. Stay tuned for the next video. All of my boxing, NFL, and NBA fans, like, share, and subscribe, man. Keep coming back. I'm going to be dropping more content.